What's going on, do-it-yourself groupies? Today we're dealing with a 40-year-old single-handled tub faucet, and I'm going to show you how to take it apart and rebuild the seats and springs. So let's get to it. Alright, do-it-yourself groupies, today we've got a 40-year-old shower valve that is leaking, and we're going to attempt to rebuild this thing without completely destroying it. I done one about 2 weeks ago, and the only way to get into it was to cut it out. Then we had to pull down the tub surround, the whole 9 yards, put a new roughing in, and I'm praying that that's not the situation we got ourselves into here today. There's only one way to find out, and that's to dive in and get to it. You press it in all the way, and it's still going to keep on dripping. That's just going to lead to a bigger problem. You might as well address it now. First things first, get yourself a Phillips No. 2 screwdriver like this one from Channellock, because we're going to go ahead and take these screws out on the trim. And the whole reason I want to go ahead and take these screws out on the trim is so I can see behind the trim and see if we got any shut-off valves in behind it. Oh, yes, we got a shut-off right here, shut-off on the other side. Now, hopefully, if those things are not bad, we can shut off the water right here at the source. Otherwise, we got to shut it off where it comes into the house. We got to take us a 2.5mm hex wrench and stick it up inside that set screw and break it loose so we can take that handle off. Put this in there nice and tight. There we go. If loose enough, we just wiggle it until it pops it off there. Pull our trim. There's what I was looking for. You got the valve on the left, the valve on the right. If all goes good and these things are working correctly, I can shut them off here. That way they can still use the rest of their fixtures throughout the house. Channellock flathead. Try to break this thing loose here. Make sure you're just right, because some of these things, man, if you don't get it just right and stick it right down the middle, you'll break that brass off every time. You can turn those in, if need be, by some pliers. Nice and shut off. Take our handle here and stick it back on, just so we can test it out. Left and right. We'll go left, right, up, down, side to side, wiggle around. There we go. No water. That means we can take this thing apart where it sits at. Now, if you ever get into a situation like this, the first thing you're going to have to do is take this cap off right here. But whenever you go to take this cap off, if somebody has over-tightened it 40 years ago, it might be seized up and locked on there pretty good. It might have all kinds of condensation. God knows what you're going to get yourself into. But if all goes well and somebody put plumber's grease on there when they originally installed this, then it might not be too bad. You know how people are. They want to put pliers on everything, even if it's supposed to be hand-tightened. I include myself. I always like spraying it down with some sort of lubrication. Pick your poison, whether it's WD-40, PP Blast, or whatever. Spray it down, let it seep in. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. Basically, got a little tension ring on the outside right here. You can clearly see where it's been took on and off here before. Need something flat and hard, whether it's a scraper or an old striking plate off a door. I like to move the stem up out of the way, and I pick me two of the best sides to get on nice and flat and start turning it. This thing nice and loosened up. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it off here first thing. There you are. At least gives that seal and the ball a little bit of room to wiggle there whenever you start to loosen it up. And after you've lubed it, it never hurts to get yourself some pliers or something and just tap all the way around it. Don't beat on it like it's a 10-penny nail or anything like that. Just tap all the way around it, lube it up. If you're lucky, you can get yourself a pair of pliers like this V-Jaw Speed Grip from Channellock. Get yourself a good grip on it, but keep in mind where them copper lines are in behind you. You don't want to be torquing down or left, right, or up, especially if this thing's not secured real good in behind the wall, because then you're going to twist everything all to pieces. You see, this roughing has 3/4 inch copper lines coming out from these pipes this way. It sets up about that far, which is a pretty stupid design if you ask me. Newer roughings are much better to use. But if you run into one of these old ones and you don't want to rip the wall down, you want to be as gentle as you can be whenever you go to take this cap off here. If we can get this beauty ring off, we're going to be in pretty good shape as far as the rebuild goes. And I love using pliers like this right here because I can get a precise grip around this round object. And once you get a really good bite on it, all you got to do is start applying minimal force, okay? If you realize that the whole thing is turning, you need to stop what you're doing because you're going to end up twisting those pipes off. But if you're not twisting the whole thing, then I recommend going nice and slow until it breaks it loose like so. Now once you get it broke loose like so, simply reach around here and start unscrewing it by hand. There you are. Pull this off. Now you can see those copper lines. Now clearly I did not twist this with a lot of force, but you can clearly see from my angle that someone at some point in time did. This has been twisted in the past, so if I was to come in here and just put all kinds of force on there, I'm going to end up breaking those off, and then you got to take all the tub surround down, cut this out, put new roughing in, the whole 9 yards. Sometimes there ain't nothing you can do about that. The only thing you can do is try to cut right across this beauty ring right here. If you can cut this out with a hacksaw and split it, that's your best opportunity to get into this without destroying the entire roughing. But sometimes there ain't no other option but to destroy the entire roughing. We'll go ahead and pull the ball stem out of here. There we go. What we're looking to change is those seats and springs inside here. That's exactly what we need to change. You can clearly see by looking at it right there that it is a little bit sideways. Now I'm going to put this back on there. I'm not going to intentionally try to correct it. I'm going to leave it as is to prevent any potential leaks from happening. Now we just got to get ourselves a pick or something of the equivalent of a pick. Get those seats and springs out there, put some new ones in, clean this all up, and reassemble it. As a matter of fact, that hex ring that you was using to get the handle off there, just reach inside here, start wiggling it, you pop them off there. Really see how old those are. Now if you look at these right off, the same type of kits that it takes to rebuild these are the same kind that it takes to rebuild single-handle faucets like Delta. Ever since I've been doing this sort of work, I've been stocking up and getting all kinds of parts that I might need for jobs like this, such as a complete rebuild kit that comes with a special tool to get that lock and cap off there. Now I got my new springs, and these basically go like so. Come in shape on top, your seat right there. Do the same thing to the other side. If you go to reinstall them, just take your hex wrench or whatever it is that you're using, slide them around through there, and then slide them back inside that hole after you cleaned out all the condensation like so. Just do it like this, push it straight back in there. Line everything up. It helps you get it right where it needs to go. Now you see, whenever I took the old ones out, they were nice and flush up against the brass. These poke out a little bit, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. That way it's got spring tension. If you look inside here, you'll see this little nub sticking out right here where the screwdriver tip is. See that right there? Yep. That's where the slotted portion of this ball is supposed to go. And you take that thing and line it up like so and make sure that it's locked into place right there. It'll kind of help guide you. There you are. Put this on the same way it come off. But there's a little nub poking out the top of that right there. Basically another little guide because you got this little slot right here that it needs to go into. Take it, line it up, push it over top of the stem right there, and I'm just going to push it in like so. I want to make sure that it's getting aligned the way it is supposed to be. Now you can clearly see that's where it's supposed to be at. Everything looks good. Make sure the exterior threads are all cleaned up and you got brand new O-rings or anything like that you need to replace. Get yourself some plumber's grease, wrap it around it. I usually carry an old toothbrush or something like that to do this with, but I don't know what I've done with the old toothbrush. Either way, the exact same concept applies as long as you got some plumber's grease wrapped around it. Doesn't really hurt to do it on the inside of the roughing or anything like that. Grease is grease. All it can do is help. I've got some on the inside of our cap right there. Now there's 1,000 different ways you can repair these things, just depending on what's wrong. Whether you want to put the entire rebuild kit on there or what have you. In this situation, it's just seats and springs. Now anytime you're tightening it up, make sure it's just hand tight. You don't got to over tighten anything. That's what the new O-rings are for. But in this situation, you don't want to over tighten it and not pay attention to that, because any of this pops out, you got to pull it out, start all over again. It has to be lined up the way it is supposed to be lined up. Just don't forget to put your cover back on. So I have plumber's grease all over my fingers. All I'm going to do is use these pliers to barely snug it up. No torquing to it, just snug it. Make sure everything moves freely. Now we're going to put our tension ring back in here. That tension ring ensures that this will stay lined up and it stays pushed up against it nice and firm. This little tool right here is supposed to be for it. Inside the keyways, turn it. Nice and tight. Don't over torque it either. It is plastic. What it does is make sure that everything is sealed up right here nice and tight. If it was to have any water coming from around it, whenever you get done, just tighten it a little bit more and then test it out. Now before I reassemble everything here, I'm going to go ahead and turn those valves back on and we're going to see if anything leaks. You can clearly see that it has got water pressure on it, so that should tell us if there's anything going to leak around this or not. Really see I can turn it on here and go right, left, up, down, shut it back off. Look all the way around it, and there ain't a drop one coming out from anywhere. So everything's good as far as that goes. Now we just need to give it a second to let all the little drips subside, and then we will make sure that no other drips keep coming out, because if that's the case, that means that the seats and the springs was exactly what was wrong with this. Since none of this is leaking, I'm going to go ahead and reassemble it. We'll tell you it doesn't hurt to also put some of that plumber's grease right there inside that set screw either, because them things that get stripped out, you're in for a world of hurt either way. Ever since it's been sitting here for a minute, there ain't a thing leaking nowhere, including the diverter down here. So everything is good. That was our problem, and this job is done. If you'd like to see some more how-to do-it-yourself videos, it's pretty simple. All you got to do is pop the clutch on that subscribe button or check out all these social media platforms. Otherwise, if this repair helped you, make sure you comment down below and let us know. Smash the like button on the way out. And as always, keep doing that blue-collar hustle.